Hello, and welcome to Dispatches from the Civil War, a podcast breaking down events of the American Civil War week by week in real time. My name is Logan, and I will be your host. This week, the events of March 1st through March the 7th in 1861. This week opens with Senator John J. Crittenden of Kentucky bringing forth a suggestion for a constitutional amendment to the Senate. This is a culmination of the Peace Convention's attempt at a compromise. This would amend the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 and also call for the admittance of new states whose constitutions allow for slavery. This last part is a bridge too far for both the Republican-dominated Congress and the incoming Lincoln administration. Having shot his shot, Crittenden will now focus on monitoring what seems to be the inevitable conflict between the federal Union and the upstart Confederate states. On the 4th, Abraham Lincoln is inaugurated as the 16th President of the United States of America. There are around 30,000 people assembled for the event. Due to threats of assassination, there are troops about the area. During his address, he will emphasize his position on slavery, stating that he is not opposed to the institution where it is already established, and that the states voting for secession are in error, since the union of these states is perpetual. Furthermore, he describes the acts against the federal government are insurrectionary or revolutionary, and he plans to uphold the Union with a line directed to those in the South. In your hands, my dissatisfied fellow countrymen, and not in mine, is the momentous issue of civil war. In closing, he states, "We are not enemies, but friends. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone, all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union, when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." An exceptional closing to the speech, but I'm not sure it will be enough. On the 6th, Confederate commissioners appointed by Jefferson Davis will attempt to establish negotiations with the Republicans now in office. They will contact influential individuals in the capital who express some support for the Southern position or those that are in support of peaceful negotiations rather than armed conflict. They will tarry in Washington for a while, attempting to have a meeting with President Lincoln. The President will not grant an audience with this delegation. I would wager that in doing so, he would give legitimacy to the Confederate government, and he probably wants to avoid that. Fort Sumter is still in the forefront. Hope you can bear hearing that name said a few more times. General Winfield Scott indicates in a letter to Secretary of State William Seward that relief of Fort Sumter is not practical at this time. It becomes one of the first things discussed in the new administration between General Scott and President Lincoln. Based on messages from Major Anderson, the fort cannot be maintained without replacements and reinforcements. Based on the situation, the number of troops needed at the installation are around 20,000. Scott and Lincoln are in agreement that the issue of Fort Sumter should be dealt with soon. Out with the old and in with the new. The Buchanan administration has successfully kicked the can to the Lincoln administration. They now walk into a minefield of states that have not only seceded from the Union, but have formed their own nation and are also resisting any federal influence in their territory. The Peace Convention has crashed and burned, leaving the option of a political solution barely holding on with its fingernails. Can Lincoln solve the algebraic formula needed to appease everyone? Somehow reinforce the fort and placate the growing Southern animosity? Maybe next week is when open conflict begins. We shall see. Thank you for listening to Dispatches from the Civil War, written, produced, recorded, and developed by myself with assistance provided by Rosemary and Paige, the podcast kitties. If you've enjoyed this or other episodes, please consider putting up a review and recommending it to your friends. Until next time, keep fit as a fiddle and toe the mark.